Hello, everybody, and welcome to number 62.
Number 62.
Number 62. No, hi, guys.
This week on Counting with Ethan and Daniel.
So anyway, guys, welcome back to WordCast. This is episode number 62. Got quite a bit of interesting news. Actually, a decent amount for how slow of a week it was, although this might be a little bit of a shorter episode because of that.
Something we should get out of the way right now. There is a big Apple event this week, likely some new phones, new iPad announcement, some other hardware.
But we despise Apple so much. No, I'm kidding.
No. So we are recording this on Tuesday, September 11th. The Apple event is on Wednesday, September 12th. So while this is coming out after the Apple event, we're recording it beforehand. So we will talk about that next week. So if you're not already subscribed, make sure and do that. So you can
Definitely, yeah. Stay tuned for that. Yeah, we'll be having some good coverage on that. But still a decent week in terms of mostly PC news. There's a little bit of gaming stuff and other random things, but it's mostly PC hardware that happened this week in terms of just some rumors and stuff like that as well. AMD doing some more interesting stuff and some rumors that make absolutely no sense about them. So we'll see. But I guess... and I probably should mention to anybody, I'm going to have a channel update out here soon. It was supposed to be out in replacement of WordCast last week, and I didn't get it done on time, so it may seem a little weird, but I need to put it out anyway. So it explains why there was no WordCast the week it was supposed to be uploaded, but I didn't have time to edit it because it was going to take almost as much time as WordCast, so even though it's not that long. But anyway, so jumping straight into it, though, you actually just found this out, so this is like pretty breaking news, really.
Yeah, it was a couple hours ago when this got put up online.
Yeah.
There was a interview with the CEO of AMD, and during that interview...
What's her name, Daniel?
Lisa.
There you go.
She was talking about...
First name basis.
Yeah. The partnership with Sony and Microsoft, which, is a big deal. I mean, they make the chips for the current gen consoles, both the Pro and the regular versions. But what's interesting is that she said they were helping them with their secret sauce.
And she said this about Microsoft too, correct?
It was, Sony
and
so
Microsoft. Sony and Microsoft.
It was essentially their console partners.
Yeah, okay.
And so with this, that means new consoles. We know that Microsoft, we know that Sony are working on them. They have both confirmed they are working on new hardware. They just haven't said what it is.
It's probably not a console. It's probably a TV.
I could see Sony
Actually,
doing
I could see Sony doing like a gaming
because
TV
they already pretty much have.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with this, I mean, these are the consoles we're expecting in late 2019 or early 2020 or later.
It could be. It could even be like Q3 2020 or something like that. In time Q4.
From what I heard, it sounds like Microsoft's console is going to come out sooner.
Okay.
And then the PlayStation will come out shortly thereafter, probably a few months. If those rumors stay true, who knows? I mean, it's still a year or two out at least. But this is great. I mean, we pretty much knew this was going to happen, but the confirmation is very nice. It's really just a matter of seeing what the hardware will be. I personally am hopeful for Zen 2.
I would love to see 7nm parts in this, but I also wonder if... So Lisa Su, when Global Foundries, which is their primary chip provider, although then they started partnering with TSMC as well, and then Global Foundries announced that they were stopping production and were R&D searching into their 7nm parts, and that it was just going to be a TSMC thing. Lisa Su specifically stated that Global Foundries will remain a large portion of their business. So we can assume a large portion of their business is either low-end chips, but that wouldn't really make sense for PCs because 7nm is what they need to try and get the edge on Intel on mobile and stuff, but for consoles. Now, continuing the console generation, of course, because Global Foundries already does that, but it wouldn't surprise me if they stick to 14nm for the next-gen consoles because it's so refined at this point for Global Foundries, it's really, really, really cheap. But
maybe a Ryzen 2 based chip or even like an upgraded version of that.
Like 12nm is what
because they usually consoles get semi-custom chips. It's not like they just get a 1600X and throw it in a console.
Yeah, but it's just a matter of them having, silicon, their yields for specific die sizes, right?
Because generally, for those that don't know, consoles use an APU-like chip. It's got the GPU and the regular CPU on one large chip.
Yeah, exactly. They're generally not. They can be separate dies. They're oftentimes separate dies and not the same die, but they're on the same substrate and everything.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and I mean, I would love. I'm almost 100% sure we're going to see Vega, maybe even Navi on this, but like a 14 nanometer version of Navi, which who knows if that'll even be a thing though. But I'd be a little surprised to see 7 nanometer for the consoles, because I think that the 12 nanometer, which is more so what I meant to say than the 14. I think the 12 nanometer from Global Foundries. I mean, it's good quality stuff. It's really, really cheap. The yields are really high right now, so I think we have a good chance of basically seeing what we have now, but in a console. And realistically, we've already seen how Vega performs when it comes to lower clock speeds. It becomes very efficient, and it becomes very good performance per watt and per dollar.
Yeah. My biggest thing is, I mean, if these consoles are not going into mass production for over a year from now, then what we have now, being especially with the way that next gen is looking like it's going to go when it comes to a streaming device and then a more expensive than normal high-end device, it would be kind of odd to have that be on what will at that time be 2-ish-year-old hardware.
2.5, yeah. That'd be weird, but if it's semi-custom, I mean, because we can already see, like, Vega's pretty impressive. Like, we talked about this in a lot of other podcasts, a lot of other episodes of WordCast, where Vega isn't very good to compete on the high end, and AMD kind of made the mistake of pushing it out on the high end, and so basically they're just pushing the silicon further than they can, further than it should be pushed for optimal efficiency and stuff, because all silicon has a point of that, and that's kind of what NVIDIA targets with their Max-Q stuff, is like, oh, this particular silicon, instead of pushing it so hard, let's find its maximum, a point of efficiency and performance per watt. Vega's point was way lower than where they clocked it. Yeah. So,
I will say, if Navi has solid ray tracing support about on par with what we're seeing from NVIDIA right now, I could see Sony and Microsoft being like, hey, we want that, because Microsoft's already got the APIs for it. They built out the DXR, everything about that.
No, it'd be very easy for them to implement it as long as they had the horsepower.
Yeah. And with Sony, I mean, when you look at... I was watching the technical analysis for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And a lot of the lighting tricks and a lot of the work that they had to do for that game, and this even ties in with Puddlegate a little bit. Whereas while the puddles disappearing wasn't a big deal, that was just a design change. The other change with the puddles was they were trying to use box cube maps to essentially fake having a reflection of something behind you, which you can't really do when it's not being rendered.
Yes, well, yeah, because most reflections, for those that don't know, in terms of water and other reflections, they're screen space reflections. Yeah. So they literally use what's on your screen and take that image and try and manipulate it to look like a reflection.
And so what they did for all of the reflections in Spider-Man on PlayStation 4 was use actual box cube maps along with that method. But what they were originally, it looks like, trying to do was do individual box cube maps based on every location where there would ever be a puddle or any kind of reflection to give you that background effect, and then they decided that it wasn't worth the time.
It's too much effort, Whereas ray tracing just does that.
It wasn't a technical issue as to why those puddles changed as far as what was being reflected. It was just a manpower change.
Yeah, and that's understandable. That's an insane amount of work for them to do, especially because, I mean, unless you have no puddles,
And so if Sony can, even if it costs them a bit more money on the hardware front, save money, like, millions of dollars per game on the development front.
If they can even just have this, like, ray tracing just for the purpose of, like, basic reflections and stuff and not anything else, that could make a huge difference in gameplay, especially off the reflections of more glossy materials that they could use it for. And so I'd love to see it, and the unfortunate truth is, if we don't see it on the next gen consoles, it's going to be a really long time before ray tracing is huge in gaming.
Unless we see a quicker console cycle.
Yeah, okay, that could be. That could be.
Already seeing...
But even so, we're going to have to wait until until then. And on PC, it's going to be pushed, but it's not going to be popularized until the consoles start to adapt it. 4K panels have come down in price, even though nobody really uses a console on a monitor. 4K panels in general have come down in price due to the consoles supporting that more. Yeah. And 4K gaming is becoming a more widely adopted thing because of that. And I think ray tracing would follow after the exact same thing. But if not, PC might have it on a few titles, because we know there's some titles that attempt to push things as far as they can. The Tomb Raider series has done that. CD Projekt Red does that a lot. But other than those few specific instances, it's not going to be popularized. So it'd be nice to see it on the next-gen consoles, because that's going to be a big push for the industry to move towards something that is definitely a better jump in terms of visual fidelity.
Yeah, I really hope that we do see it, because, I mean, and again, it comes down to, I think, the only reason I think this is likely at all is because of how much money and time it would save in development of games. When you have Sony with a ton of different first and second party studios, and Microsoft making a new, stronger push for first party games and buying up a ton of studios, that's a lot of time spent on lighting. If you can shave down, just the reflections aspect of that when it comes to development, that's huge.
It is. Yeah.
I mean, you're talking potentially like a couple months or more of development work that could go towards anything else.
Yeah, and
whether it's making the game come out sooner.
Chances are it won't even save Sony money. It will let them do things they couldn't before.
Yes.
Because they're probably not going to go through massive layoffs because of it. You know what I mean?
No, I'm saying if it saves them money, it would be in time to get the game out.
Yeah, because if they didn't add a ton more stuff to the game, they would say keeping it the same. Then they can put more dev time into other aspects.
Like Spider-Man was a 3-year dev cycle, realistically about 2.5 years from when they started full-on work on it. Yeah. Because the first 6 months was just a couple people knew about it and they were kind of discussing it.
Yeah.
But that 2.5 years, if they could have shaved that down to 2, and you have a couple hundred people working on a game, and you shave off half a year's worth of salaries on that and get them onto the next game or onto the DLC, that's huge.
That does save money, yes. And gets us more good games.
Yeah, and so, I mean, if you can save...
Because the gaming market's it's so rare that there's any good games out anymore, it's really hard to find ones to play.
If you could save, 10, 20 million per game, and you're putting out 4 or 5 games a year... It'd pay for itself for taking a loss for a couple years. It
would, indeed. So, so it's just a matter of, is the hardware there? And, really Navi could easily have that, because we know what ray tracing takes, right? It's not like NVIDIA is the only one that understands how that tech works. They just put the effort into it, release the cards first. Who knows how they're going to perform, but they're expensive, right? And we could see that maybe come down in price, and that'd be amazing.
That'd be awesome. What I do think would be interesting, and this might actually be a little bad for the PC market, kind of, is if we do get consoles releasing with ray tracing support, when it comes to development of multi-platform games, we're going to start seeing the issue then of, for third-party titles, not having that support for ray tracing. Or not having that benefit of ray tracing as far as development cost, because they still have to make everything
rasterized because of lower end PCs.
And so that makes me wonder if not at the launch of these new consoles, but probably closer to the end of that cycle, we start to see minimum specs matter again, in that we see some games release with a minimum spec of ray tracing compatible hardware.
Yeah, and if that were to happen, then we can look back and go, NVIDIA made the right decision by pushing them out as soon as possible, despite likely not really being ready.
Yeah.
Because that would be kind of destructive to the PC market in some ways, depending on what titles use that, which it might end up, if that were the case, because they don't want to miss out on the money that comes from the PC market. The devs that are making games for multiple things, including PC, rather than being exclusive to a specific console only, would probably focus more on rasterization than ray tracing, which is also in a way bad, because the PC market doesn't get that then. And the consoles wouldn't for those games either, but it means there'd be less of that on the PC than we'd like to see, because we want the PC to be on the cutting edge. But of course, we have these companies, PC has the power, but we have these companies with the financial power to do whatever they want.
It's been a long time since consoles had a significant jump over where the main PC market was at. There was a time, what was it? Was it the 360 and PS3 area that
that was where they
had a sizable lead on the majority of the PC
on similar price parts, right?
Yeah. No, it was either that or it was PS2 and Xbox, but there was a time when
where they were leading in terms of even the top end.
Yeah.
That was probably that would have been back to PS2 and the like, if I remember correctly, because that was where PC gaming was huge, and then it went boop, and then it went boop.
Yeah.
And so, you guys probably can see my hands, so I was just making boop noises. But anyway, so basically we had the PC market was huge and then shrunk and then got huge again more recently. Yeah. And that could have been because of that leap is why game on PC aside for MMOs and stuff, which were always first on PC, if the consoles have better graphics anyway,
and,
right?
I mean, we know that Microsoft has admitted that, a lot of what they did as far as releasing the One X was in response to the growing PC market. They wanted to have something to entice people who were interested in like 4K from going and spending more money on PC, which, because $500 for a
still doesn't run at 4K half the time, but anyway.
No, the Xbox One X does run most games at actual 4K. It's the PlayStation 4 Pro.
Right, but there's a lot that are coming out now that are not going to be run at 4K, such as Shadow of the Tomb Raider is going to be running on the Xbox One X at like 2016p.
Yeah,
or
I think that's
like
actually probably because of the PlayStation. They don't do as well of optimization.
They
exclusives do a lot better job at 4K.
Right, that's true, but they do. I was watching Digital Foundry's analysis. Credit to them, but the game genuinely looks better on the Xbox One X.
No, I know that part, but I'm saying
versus the PS4 Pro.
If they didn't have to develop for the PlayStation and for the lower gen consoles, they could have taken that time.
Maybe so. Yeah. They might be using some dynamic resolution and stuff.
But ultimately, like, we know that they're concerned about
the PC market,
PC taking market share, and so if they take a bit of a loss on. Even more of a loss than normal on these consoles, or in Microsoft's case, maybe they don't take as much of a loss, but they get people to finance it.
To be honest though,
because they're working on that.
I don't think Microsoft cares that much about the hardware because they lose money for the first while on the consoles. I think this is why we've been seeing Microsoft dive more into PC cross-compatibility because they want the two to complement each other's markets. So that the people that want the better graphic fidelity that can go beyond what the consoles are capable of go to PC, but Microsoft still gets a cut.
Yeah.
And that's why they've been trying to improve their Xbox app that's still mostly garbage, but at least usable at this point.
But even outside of software sales, because let's say whether they sell you the hardware at a loss or profit or not, and outside of the software, Xbox Live, you don't really pay for that on PC.
Yes, and they could start charging for that.
Yeah. I don't think that would work well.
Well, if it was an Xbox exclusive game, right, for the Xbox app, they could do it.
I don't think there's enough of them that people would be willing to pay for it.
Yeah, I think the PC market, we've heard PCMR yell, and companies don't like to be yelled at by us.
Yeah. And so between that and peripheral sales...
Yeah.
I think that it's still worth trying to make
trying to kind of compete with it.
Be a competitive product. And so when you look at that situation, if they can have, even if it's just for a couple years, consoles be ahead of the game a little bit compared to the majority of the PC market, like obviously...
Right. Majority is the important word there.
Obviously, an Xbox or PlayStation with ray tracing is not going to beat...
a 3080 Ti or something at the time, right?
But if they can have that be on par with, let's say, the 2070, if it releases a couple years later, as far as ray tracing performance, that would be huge, especially for the cost.
It would be. And, this actually goes back to even though, despite some of their business practices... Thank you, NVIDIA, for at least attempting to push things forward because I like the PC market to stay on top in terms of graphics fidelity because that is a good arguing point, and I don't want the platform to die.
Yeah.
I don't want the console platform to die either. There is a lot of ups and downs to both, right? But I would love to see something like that happen with the consoles. And Microsoft's being really smart, though, by getting their hands and their feet in the door for PC because that gives them the kind of wiggle room there, whereas if PC explodes, they can still make a ton of money off gaming. Yeah. And if PC doesn't, or it still gets bigger because the gaming market in general is growing, they're pulling in more money from that. And I think it's actually a long-term bad decision on Sony's part to completely deny any kind of cross-compatibility. Exclusives are great, but
the cross-platform play, yes. Sony's doing a lot of other really smart, much more subtle things. They have a publisher that is not called Sony or PlayStation that publishes games on other platforms. The majority of their games are on Switch.
Okay, yeah.
They're doing other things like that. When you look at the PlayStation game streaming service, no matter what you think about game streaming, the fact that they have it built into some TVs is huge. You can just buy a PS4 controller and use it with like a Samsung TV.
And that's a good point. That's monthly. A good direction they're pushing is the game streaming.
They're trying to, rather than go for PC... I think in part because it would help Microsoft if they went for PC. because if Microsoft's making a push on PC and Sony makes a push, it incentivizes people to play
It
on
incentivizes
PC.
everybody to go to PC.
And that means that more games sales will help or go to Microsoft.
Yeah.
They're just trying to spread to all of the other platforms.
Right. And I would love to see... I still love how Microsoft's been working so hard to make the Xbox crossplay, though. And we got a little more on that, actually, in our kind of a quick bits section. Or no, we got it just a little bit down here. But I really like that they're pushing towards that, because
they're only doing it because they're losing. When they were in the lead, they refused to even crossplay with PC.
I know they did it. But I want them to continue to push in that direction, because PC's huge. And I'd like to be able to play with some of my friends that, for whatever reason, don't want to go to PC, even though oftentimes the ones that I'm talking about are playing on Xbox, not for exclusives, but just for gaming. And I'm like, and they're the ones that have the money and are spending enough money where they wouldn't have to save the money on the console. They could get a better experience on PC, but they're not. I'd still like to be able to play with them, though, is the point I'm getting at. And I like to see the market going in that direction, and I hope it continues to. I also don't like how big of a monopoly Valve has on the PC gaming market, so I do like that Origin and stuff like that are coming out with platforms, even though they suck. Discord's a good example. GOG. Discord, because they support both DRM and DRM free content, which is cool. But also the Xbox app, if Microsoft can make it functional, that'd be really nice, because I'd like to use it. It's got inherent problems. And Microsoft also needs to fix their game mode on PC to make it dynamically adjust depending on the performance of your PC, because there's no reason that game mode should make my game bar take 45 seconds to load. I can't turn off game mode because I have to wait for the game bar to load to turn off game mode. It's really lame. And then we also, we have the issue of how much it suppresses other tasks. But I like that this ended up being the biggest topic. Even though we just added this like 30 seconds before we started. It's pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more nuance to next gen than people really think. It's
going to be weird.
It's either going to be a somewhat pointless generation in that it's just a spec bump.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be the generation that reinvigorates console gaming, I think. If they can afford SSDs or cartridge games.
I wouldn't say that reinvigorates the word, because I don't think the console gaming market's died.
No, but it's certainly, outside of the Switch, I think, starting to
stagnate
and lose its growth.
Yeah, but there's only so many people in the world that
I know,
can play
I'm not
games.
saying because of saturation, though. I mean, when you look at the growth of mobile, when you look at the growth of PC, essentially there is a lot of growth still happening in gaming.
Okay,
it's just not happening in the console space.
And more of it's happening in the PC space, actually, which would would imply that maybe people are moving for plethora of reasons. Now, I think realistically for the consoles, a game streaming service, if they can get it down, is a really, really, really good idea. Because if you can pay 10 or 15 or even $30 a month for, say you get the console for free with the subscription.
That's not going to happen.
Well, maybe with the streaming system.
So at least based on the rumors of the Xbox's game streaming system, it's probably going to cost a couple $100. But the reason for that is it's not going to be just a straight up game streaming box where it's like a weak ass chip and it streams games. It's going to have some decent hardware, and it's going to load some of the data on the system,
right,
so that it can perform well. If it can handle the hit detection and things like that on console,
and then
relay info, it would be no more latency than a normal online game.
Your location in an online game and stuff like that is going to be direct on the console. And, I get that. And, console players are already going to be less sensitive to input lag because they're used to it. Because
TVs are trash.
Exactly. So if we fix the TV problem, like you said, that kind of counteracts that. And I do think that's a direction that the consoles should go. Maybe not necessarily exclusively, though, right? Like you were saying, have a high-end model, too.
That's what it sounds like the Xbox
ones.
is going to do, is a two-tier system.
Then people could make the argument that they really do get a pretty... of course, there's still going to be the inherent problems of latency that the PC guys are going to complain about, including myself, because I am really sensitive to that. But
2 milliseconds!
Exactly. But there's going to be, a genuine argument for going to consoles to be cheaper, because for a long time, the PC market has been able to argue that in most cases you can get a PC and get a better value out of it, even if it's a little more expensive, because of all the benefits that you get by going with
like pirating Windows and waiting for every game to be on sale.
Yes, but also including, right. Okay, I'm not arguing against that, but what I'm saying is there still was an argument there, and this would actually help genuinely separate things in a way. And I think it'd be interesting. I just thought NVIDIA's idea of pushing that was kind of dumb because the PC players don't want that. You know, the point of the PC. And I could see a market eventually, longer term, I could see a market of consoles being the streaming services and PC being the better but substantially more expensive experience for higher end gaming, right? I could see that being the direction that the whole market goes, so that you can get more and more people on the streaming services where maybe it's a $50 or $100 for your console and, you know, $15 a month for the subscription. That would be pretty amazing. And you couldn't really argue with the deal of that.
Except data caps.
Which
data
is something
caps
we
will
fix.
be the thing that prevents game streaming, I think, from being the de facto way to
because if you run Netflix 24/7, literally 24, like, you know, the amount of that people game, you know, you're going to be blowing through your data cap real fast, especially if you have more than one player. Because, you know, TVs like Netflix and stuff, a lot of times you have multiple people in the house watching it. Chances are with the consoles, it's going to be one, maybe two people using it. And if you have more people in the household, they're also using data at the same time. And then speeds matter, and that's going to put, you know, if game streaming becomes huge, that's going to put more of a hold on the ISP market, and so maybe that'll incentivize ISPs to push speeds if the big console companies push for it. One
idea, I forgot where I saw it, but one idea that I really liked, I forget where I saw it from, but I know I was watching a YouTube video and they were discussing this. It was the idea of having game streaming, but actually using ISPs to their advantage, in that they would host, essentially, this would be a business for ISPs to potentially get into, is what if the ISPs started game streaming services and they hosted the stuff at local centers?
Yeah, because that's kind of what Netflix works with the ISPs to do already, is they put a lot of their streaming equipment stuff at hubs.
Though for different reasons.
But they do that, and that helps with that helps with the bandwidth and the latency and everything, because there's no way that one central location could deliver every Netflix movie at the same time.
And so if in each major city you had hubs that were running some of the game streaming on, that might be a way for Comcast, for example, if net neutrality is completely screwed, to essentially make some extra money and have game streaming be viable for people that would otherwise be screwed by data caps. It just means that you have to get Comcast.
Could compete really easily by forcing with Sony and Microsoft in terms of game streaming, as they come out with their own one and be like, oh, well, guess what? Ours doesn't have hardly any input lag.
And it doesn't get affected by the data cap.
Yeah, because it's just like, oh, we just let you buy the data cap, it's fine. Yeah, so that would suck for these big companies, but who knows? Sony and Microsoft are no little guys with not, you know, they don't have any money at all.
I feel like if that happened, especially Microsoft would fight back by using their power in the cloud market.
They would, yeah, and they have the ability to do that, because people don't know, but for consumers, the Microsoft Cloud, whatever, but for business, they're big boys.
Could you imagine if Sony and Microsoft partnered to make a gaming ISP?
That would be incredible. Although, of course, to give a good example though of just how big Microsoft is in terms of like enterprise stuff, is they're working on developing data centers underwater. Yeah. Like, they're no small player in that market. That's where they make a lot of their money. Like, consumers don't matter.
The price of building that underwater, the idea is to help that compensate for and eventually pay for itself via cooling costs.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Amazing. Yeah. And then, of course, when I say that, you know, they don't care about consumers, I more so, like, the consoles they do. They make a lot of money from that. But aside from that, Windows and stuff isn't a huge deal, consumer-oriented. But enterprise is huge. And so Microsoft can push some buttons and stuff to the ISPs if they want to, because I'm sure there's a lot of the ISPs are using a lot of Microsoft equipment in terms of, just anything.
There's a reason that Amazon can afford to take so much of a loss on so many of their services. It's mostly because of AWS.
Yeah, they make so much profit off that. It's a huge market, guys, and until you work in the enterprise IT field, it's really hard to grasp just how crazy it is in terms of finances out there. It's not, for a medium-sized business, it is not it's not a big thing for them to spend $50,000 or $100,000 in server equipment. It's not. For a medium or even some smaller sized businesses, it's just not. And that's where people don't see the scope. There's huge profit margins there. There's a reason that Intel, their Xeon chips are so overpriced compared to their desktop counterparts that are literally the same thing with features disabled. Because they have that higher profit margin from enterprise because they'll pay for it. Speaking of Intel.
Yeah. So they're doing some interesting things with chipset production. So they are outsourcing some of their 14 nanometer production. It sounds like this is specifically the H310 chip.
Yes,
based on the report.
yes, that's everything that I read about it too.
They are outsourcing
because they don't need it to be as high performance. The H series is their kind of base end.
Outsourcing that to TSMC,
which is weird. I would expect them to outsource to Glofo because to me, Glofo, I mean, aside from the consoles, especially if they do the next gen consoles, there's a big market for high performance cheap silicon because there's a lot of areas where they don't even care if they're getting 60 or 90 nanometer silicon, and having cheap, like say 24 nanometer would actually be a huge benefit to them. But I'm a little surprised by this because I feel like Glofo, they could go to them, they could get that production quicker and cheaper. But I mean, of course, I'm not negotiating
because of other things that Glowflow is doing.
Yeah, maybe.
So
I don't know.
They might be preoccupied. Who knows?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, but TSMC, I'm just kind of confused because I mean, Glowflow they're small compared to TSMC, but it's just like, so we have some of Apple's stuff. We have Samsung. They do mostly their own stuff, but they partner a little bit with TSMC, AMD, Nvidia, and Intel. What's that turning TSMC into? You know what I mean? It's kind of scary, but I guess everybody's going to them.
And I mean, maybe this is because it is the H series and it doesn't need to be as good. Maybe that's why they're going with TSMC.
It could be. If
they can get a better deal and it doesn't need to be to perform all that special.
Yeah, it could be. But yeah, it's interesting though, definitely to see.
As you've mentioned, Intel likes their profit margins.
They like their profit margins, and I mean the other thing too is, like you mentioned here, they've been having production issues with 14 nanometer, not because they have bad 14 nanometer. They have the best refined 14 nanometer on the market, but because they're having trouble keeping scale up.
Yeah, because they're working on 10 nanometer. So any factories that are not already on 14 nanometer, they're not going to convert to 14.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't make sense to.
It doesn't, and they've been having trouble keeping up. Assuming they can hit
their 10 nanometer target of late next year for actual release.
Which we'll believe it when we see it.
Yeah. Then they would be starting on probably converting factories now, and I've seen reports that they are.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm excited for the 10 nanometer, although I've read some more recent stuff that shows that the ratio in terms of the transistor density of 14 nanometer versus 10 nanometer isn't going to be as big of a jump as they originally had planned. And that's unfortunate because I was hoping to see something that would clobber the 7 nanometer parts out there instead of just beat it marginally. But of course, as we get smaller, it gets harder.
Maybe they're also doing that to try and get it out on time.
Maybe so, on time. But I mean, 10 nanometer is probably going to come out about when 7 nanometer becomes pretty popularized. And that's probably Intel's goal there. And I don't know. I mean, Intel might push smaller and be the first to the next step down. It wouldn't surprise me if TSMC and the like have issues producing anything smaller than 7, going down to like 5 or whatever. It's funny that we're already there though, because on WordCast was probably a year and a half ago, we talked about how there was rumors about 7 and 5 nanometer being possible. But of course, transistor density is a completely different aspect.
Don't worry, dude. IBM's got it.
I remember when we talked about that. Yeah.
IBM has everything.
I mean, I don't get them. They're the shadow in the background that nobody pays attention to, and they're like, oh yeah, we built the biggest supercomputer again. Where's all your money come
we
from?
Have working 5 nanometer.
Yeah. Just FYI, but you know,
it's coming from those clocks in schools.
I guess so. It's so weird. IBM just we talk about this like once every 3 to 6 months. I feel like, but we roll into like IBM. Like, what the hell? Like they're just there. They provide some server equipment to specific industries, medical and stuff.
IBM, why can't you have jobs in Portland?
I'd work for you.
Yeah, I was looking at their jobs, but they don't have any in Portland.
Oh, sad face.
They have a fucking data center job in Tequila.
I don't
Washington,
get them.
But they don't have anything in Portland.
Yeah, they're like this shadow in the background. Nobody knows about them. Everybody's like, oh, IBM, yeah, they were that company that like built a PC or something,
I also
right?
went past their building in Washington, like their main one in Washington.
I'm assuming it's huge still. Yeah, like it's like where's their money come from? I mean, I'm assuming a lot of government contracts, but it's just like, okay, IBM, they're just like, oh, we're beyond all the competitive garbage. we're just above everybody.
Yeah, like the people that go with us need us, so we're good.
Yeah, there we go. It's just like looking at all you guys, like, I remember when I was doing that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, Intel outsourcing though, at first people were reading the headlines and all the headlines seemed like, oh, they're not making CPUs. And it was like, I'm sure that's not what's happening, right? You read into it, of course, it's just chipset production. It's not a big deal, guys. Intel does have what I'd say is probably still the best silicon, although we don't know what's out from everybody yet. We haven't seen what 7nm really can do from TSMC, but it's interesting to see this happening.
Yeah.
Should we let's dump into a little bit of AMD news here, and these won't take too long, but AMD did announce some new CPUs, and I don't know if you read into this at all.
A little bit.
So 4 new CPUs out from AMD that we'll have to see some testing on. I'm very excited to see how these perform. This is official from AMD. This isn't a rumor or a leak or anything like that. They actually announced them. So there's the E series with the 2700E and the 2600E. And what those are is they're basically low power parts. So you've got 45 watt TDP for the 8 and the 6 core models respectively. So it's basically a 2700X, but it's a low power version of it. So it's a 2700E, probably efficient or something, or eco, whatever. They don't have precision boost overdrive, which is totally fine. They're still using precision boost, which is their boosting tech, but the PBO is specifically if TDP and everything account for it, it'll overclock itself basically. They're not using PBO at all, which makes sense because they're staying within a 45 watt TDP. So we're looking at 2.8 gigahertz and 3.1 gigahertz being the base for the 8 and the 6 cores there. Low power needs, lots of threads. Not really for gaming, but potentially for high performance like notebooks. Maybe not even XPS, but like a little bit bigger than that, or like workstation class stuff that's currently using like Xeons, because all Ryzen supports ECC, right? So they could just throw these in some of the Dell's mobile workstations and stuff like that. Instead, you're getting a lot of cores for cheap. Or you could potentially see them in pre-builts and stuff like that maybe are built more for like work and less for play
very
business
heavy
stuff.
Multitasking, but not like high performance multitasking.
Yeah, not like production stuff, but in terms of just like office work, it could be great for like the financial institutions and stuff where like I have 70 billion things running on my computer at the same time, right? But I don't need
I've got 40 Excel sheets, 20 Chrome instances, and like 12 monitors for my financial software.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of person where they could really benefit from just more cores despite not higher clock speeds. So those are interesting, but what's more interesting to us and our general PC market here is the 2500X and the 2300X. So these are the replacements for the like 1500 and 1300 from the original Ryzen series. So we're finally seeing those lower performance parts coming out from AMD that'll be cheaper. I don't have pricing on any of this yet. I didn't find any. Forgive me if there is some out there. I didn't see it. There might be after we do this. But anyway, so we're looking at 4 cores and 8 threads on the 2500X and 4-core 4-thread for the 2300X, about what we would expect. Now they're doing some interesting stuff here though. There's 8 megabytes instead of 16 megabytes of L3 cache this time, which will affect some things, but not so much gaming and stuff. And that's because they're actually having a single CCX being activated on each of 4 cores, rather than having 2 cores from each CCX, which I'm assuming AMD just discovered, that just performs better or is better for optimization for game purposes and stuff like that. There's no Infinity Fabric involvement at all because they were originally using a 2+2. Now it's still a CCX. They're just going to have 4 cores disabled as far as we understand. So anyway, we should see about like an 8% or so performance boost according to AMD, which is substantial, especially for the lower end gaming market, as this really helps bring them that little edge closer to Intel in terms of high performance, more normal priced gaming. The people that are wanting to spend $1,000 on their whole setup, or $800 or $600 on just a PC, those people could be looking at something like the 2500X.
Remember when you could get a mid-tier PC for $800?
What do you mean?
Like 70 series GPUs and pretty good processors for the time.
You still can.
Not really.
You still could. I mean, $800, because the thing is, a 1060 basically replaced the 70 series as the more normal. Like it used to be like 970s were like the big selling part for the 900
that's just because
series.
of cost.
That's because of cost, but also if you look at performance metrics, the 1060 is a pretty good leap. So kind of makes sense. I guess I get what you're saying is that's technically on the lower end, whereas the 70 is smack in the middle. But I guess the 1060 has basically just become that market.
But that's like the arguments about the 20 series having just kind of shifted everything up.
Yeah.
And
Whereas, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, and I guess we did have a day where that was true, and I mean now it's. AMD's helping, of course, with that is if you can get your CPU, your motherboard, and basically all your other components for $400, then you could fit a 1070 or something like that.
Which means like 2 gigs of RAM.
Yeah, because of RAM pricing.
And a hard drive.
No, you could still do an SSD. SSDs are cheap, RAM's expensive.
256 gig.
Yeah, like a 256 gig SSD and 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte hard drive. Don't buy 1 terabytes, guys, please. It's like $10 extra for a 2 terabyte. But anyway,
buy 12 terabyte drives.
Yeah, buy the 12, or how about the new 14s from Seagate, which I didn't even put in the dock because I'm an idiot.
Which you still can't properly use as a boot drive.
Not really, no, but you shouldn't. You really shouldn't.
For a while, I was using a 3, I think.
Yeah, I know, you were.
Yeah,
That's right. You were using one of the 3s that were at high risk of failure from Seagate.
No. It wasn't a Seagate. I still have it.
Oh, no, that's right. Sorry, that was somebody else. Never mind. Yeah, so Seagate did announce, though, speaking of PC news, that's it for the Ryzen CPU announces, but speaking of PC stuff, specifically in Seagate, is they did announce 14 terabyte consumer drives in the Barracuda line. I'm not going to go over a bunch of details there. It's basically their 12 terabyte with 2 extra terabytes. Finally, they're in the 14 terabyte market for consumers, which is nice.
Can I download more terabytes?
You can download more terabytes. No, the thing is it's like still your best value is like 6, 8, and 10. 12s are a little more expensive, and same with when you go lower, except for ones. Ones are really cheap. So little extra tidbit of AMD news here though to throw in after those CPUs is a big rumor. Please slap a fat grain of sand on this one. Because this doesn't even deserve a grain of salt. This deserves sand.
This hardly deserves talking about.
Like almost, yeah. Now, if this is true, this is amazing and awesome, but it's very unlikely and very strange. So, as we know, AMD announced the 2nd Gen Ryzen, and the top tier part from 2nd Gen Ryzen, aside from Threadripper that just came out, was the 2700X. It was a nice part, 8 cores, but it was weird because we had the 1800X on the 1st Gen Ryzen. Well, rumor has it that there's going to be a 2800X coming out to help combat Intel's 9000 series, which will have 8 cores and compete with AMD. That's going to be a 10-core part. Now, what's really weird about this is, as we know with AMD's architecture, the single die, you have 2 CCXs, each of 4 cores. So are they going to add another CCX or something? Or are they going to add another die?
Maybe they magically found a way to get 5 cores per CCX?
Maybe shrinking to 12 works and helped with that. I don't know. That would be amazing if they did. That'd be really cool if this happens, but it'd be kind of surprising to me. But it'd be good for them to push that out as fast as they can. Or maybe this is going to be the 7nm part we see from AMD at the end of this year. Like some of the rumors have kind of been hinting at. Yeah, there's like boop, and it would be amazing to see a 10-core part on the consumer, and then that way they're also not cannibalizing Threadripper by releasing a 12-core part. But because the rumor has it with 7nm coming out, they're going to be able to do 6 cores per CCX.
Yeah, and
or
see, that's
8,
what I was going to say is
at least 6.
It would make a lot more sense for this to be a 12-core, no matter how they do it. I don't see them doing 5-core CCXs.
It'd be 6 or 8.
Yeah,
estimation is actually lead to 8 being the higher probability.
Which
maybe they're gonna be 2 8-core CCXs with cores disabled.
A bunch of they got really bad yields on their 7nm, so they're like,
it'd be
let's
great
make chips.
It'd be great for the first 7nm though with bad yields. Actually, that's a good point. Is they're just like, oh, we'll just disable like 3/4 of the chip. It's fine.
They released like the 2800X. It's 7nm, but it's broken.
Yeah, but it's broken. But at least it's functional. And it'd be really cool to see this because I like to see more and more cores being put down to the lower and lower tier PC market and the console market, because then I wouldn't be surprised if like the next gen high end consoles are 16 cores, because that way we're going to be able to see devs start really focusing on that kind of optimization, which there's been a lot of issues with in games, even semi-recent ones, right? And so like Battlefield looks like it's going to be amazing for multi-core optimization. That's super, super cool. Yeah. Despite EA being a horrible company, and I'll probably not buy it.
Yeah, if this is 10-core, then maybe this is what we end up seeing in next-gen consoles. Because 10 cores makes so much sense for so many reasons in next-gen consoles. The biggest thing is that is about the perfect amount of cores for the split between developers and the console's OS. 2 cores for the console OS is more than most consoles are using now, because they've like Sony, for example, used to use 2, so it was 6 cores for games and 2 cores for the OS. They've since dropped that down to 1. Giving them 2 would certainly make the OS a lot better. And then that would mean a full 8 cores for the games, which would be great for AMD, because that means more games get 8-core optimization.
And so it'd be great for the PC market as a whole, And of course, then that also though makes you wonder: is that start to negate the point behind things like the 2500X and 2300X? Like, are quad cores going to become less important? And I'd be more worried about Intel side of things actually in that scenario, because AMD, their quad cores are super cheap, but Intel trying to charge $250 for a quad core. If games aren't optimized for it, that market's essentially gone, because all the people that would be in that market that would not want to spend $250 on a Ryzen chip with 8 cores, they're the people that are going to be they were probably buying Pentium dual cores anyway, and so they're going to go down to the AMD.
I mean, I don't think
cores.
we're going to see worse performance on the lower end. I just think we'll see better performance at the high end.
I think so. But I think I guess what I mean is we'll start seeing 4 cores being an actual hard limit for gaming. And so then that's going to incentivize people to go to higher core counts, which is great. But then I'm saying that might help, or not help, but might kill some of Intel's desktop quad-core market. Because a lot of the gamers that are going on a fairly normal budget for gaming, rather than insane, like a lot of people we know do, they're looking in that price bracket of $200-something, $300 for a CPU. If they can get an 8-core, and games can actually use that, rather than going with an Intel quad-core that has higher clock speeds, because that's better. If that's actually worse than having an 8-core for cheaper, they're going to go to the 8-core.
That's fine.
And right, which is fine. But then what I'm saying is that market will be dead, which is fine. But then AMD's quad-core market's going to be the budget gamer area, right? And then we're going to see the dual cores basically be for HGPCs and stuff.
Yeah.
And Intel's basically at that point, Intel's lower end PC market has kind of just died. Like,
it's very smart strategic move.
Basically, yeah, because I mean, it would just be because Intel's their silicon's more expensive to produce, so they're not going to drop prices too much more on the low end, because they're already struggling to compete in that area.
Yeah. I mean, hey, maybe that's what AMD is trying to accomplish.
It could be. That'd be a very smart move on their part. Is hit Intel where their profit margins are lowest, because you can undercut Intel's profit margins on the high end all you want, but they sell less of those chips. So Intel can more likely come close-ish to matching you, especially if they are still leading overall in performance and overclocking. But on the market where Intel's not making much money, fucking hit them.
Yeah.
Be like, half the price.
Sweep the leg.
Yeah, yes. There you go.
Yeah.
So, interesting. Definitely interesting and exciting. I do hope we see a 10-core. Or 12 would be awesome. I'd love to see a 12 on the low market. Or maybe they're somehow putting 2 dies right next to each other, because there is technically space for it. Yeah. I don't know how hard that would be to accomplish, but they might be doing that too. That could be. And then in that case, then we could still be seeing 16 cores basically, right, on it, but they've got a bunch disabled. So this was something that was interesting to me in particular, because we were just talking about cross-platform, and I mean, it's interesting to me, even though I'm probably not going to play it.
You literally said meh.
I literally said meh, but it's interesting because it definitely points towards more of this happening. So, Halo 5 is coming to PC, in theory. Rumor has it. Pretty strong rumors here, actually, by some interesting official box changes, which I'll get to. Now, it's already been re-released on Xbox One, so now it'll be another re-release on PC, and that was kind of what I was getting at, is maybe we're going to see more games that were Xbox exclusive get re-released on PC because of this, which is really easy to convert it over to that, so why not? And so there's still profit to be grabbed from there, because there's PC guys that would probably love to play some of the console exclusives, but they're not going to buy an Xbox just to play the older ones, and the newer ones are all coming to PC anyway.
Yeah.
You re-release these older games, even if it's like Halo 3 on PC, they'll go buy it.
Dude, if they released Halo 3 on PC...
everybody would buy it. Yeah. I would buy it. The online community would blow up, because that's still the best one. So the reason that this rumor came around was that there's box art on Amazon, which had a subtle change that happened to it, which points towards this. So the box art used to say on it, only on Xbox One, for the Xbox One re-release title. Now it says Xbox One console exclusive.
Yeah.
Which is a very specific term that they've kind of been using to say, this is an exclusive, but it means it's exclusive to our console, not exclusive to this platform only, but just in the console realm, it's exclusive to this console. So if that's the case, then we'll probably be seeing this on PC, and that would be really exciting, even though Halo 5 was probably the worst one ever. No, was definitely the worst one. I don't
know. I'd say that Dave & Buster's Halo game is probably pretty bad.
You mean Halo 4?
No, it was an actual Dave and Buster's Halo game.
I know. But Halo 4, maybe it was Halo 4. Reach was good, 3 was good, 4 was horrible, 5 might have been an improvement. 343 isn't the best when it comes to developing Halo, though. They ruined some stuff. But anyway, so, cool. I'm not incredibly excited, but it is nice. So since it's Halo 5, I was thinking it was 4 for some reason. I might actually buy it. Maybe there's a chance, but
yeah, it's kind of disappointing that unless they change it, it doesn't come as part of the Play Anywhere program. Maybe they will make that change, which would be cool because that would instantly mean everyone that owns Halo 5 digitally on
Xbox One
all of a sudden owns it on PC.
Yeah, because it'd be okay.
But we'll have to wait and see.
That'd be really nice.
Because it was released like a year before the Play Anywhere initiative really took off and became a must for all games.
And I love that. I do love that. The one-time payment for it is great. And then, that even could benefit PC guys that buy it and end up wanting to play it on a console setting later. Or, they say they have a kid and they're like, oh, I'll just buy this console and I have all these games that the kid can play. I think that's cool. So this was interesting. I don't know if you read into this, the Google URL stuff.
Quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you might even know more about this than me. I only read a few things on it. So I'll let you
there's
take
not a
this
lot
one.
of information.
Yeah, and there's going to be more. But
yeah, realistically, what it comes down to is that Google has said that they would like to replace URLs, but they don't know how.
They're working on how, and they'll talk more about ideas of how later.
When they figure it out.
Yeah, basically.
Now, there's a few reasons for this. For one, URLs in general can sometimes be confusing or odd. This is a very minor one, but let's look at Steam. If you go to Steam.com, which is what you would think Steam, which is one of the biggest PC software things in general.
It's one of the biggest pieces of software in the world. Yeah.
You'd think they'd have Steam.com.
Nope.
It's like vacuums.
Or something something weird.
It's not anything.
You're going to pull it up, it's going to be porn.
I wish. No, last I checked, I think it was like vacuums or something. It's not even loading very well now.
Yeah, it's really slow.
Steam is steampowered.com.
Yeah, and you'd think that Valve would try and pay whatever it costs to get to this, but...
Yeah, and it's been years and years, and it's not loading.
Yeah, so maybe Valve... they're being DDoSed by Valve.
Now that we're talking about it, they're buying it.
Oh, it can't be reached. Wait, but is Steam powered working?
But yeah, that's just one example as far as just general you going to a website and it not being what you think you're going to.
Now, I don't know how you'd avoid that, though, is the question with a new URL format type thing. Like, how do you avoid the same name? The companies have the same names, right? So it's still maybe an issue. So like you said, Google doesn't really know how.
Yeah. But there's some more important things. I think the biggest thing is security.
Which actually includes what you just said there is typos and misunderstanding of what sites.
Yeah.
There you can I added an R to something by accident and it goes to some virus-filled horrible site that gets you fired from work.
Or it's something that looks like the original site,
but it's
designed
filled
to
with
your information.
Exactly.
When you look at, even just using Reddit, there's a lot of times where there's very commonly misspelled subreddits, and if you go there, it has a link to the actual subreddit you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
That type of same thing happens for normal websites all the time, especially with older people or people that haven't been to that site before, so it doesn't autofill.
Yep.
And so having some kind of more accurate, easier method of getting people to websites is fine. And realistically, how many people outside of the like bar in Chrome or in Firefox, which also functions as a search bar anyway?
Yeah.
How many people go to directly like URLs that often?
Not very commonly. Yeah. No, it's not. I've seen so many times general users, and it always makes me want to. Yeah. Where they just they're going to go Google Facebook or they're going to go Google Reddit or something. Or Google, yeah. And I'm just like, well, guys, just .com, know, and
so
that
as long if they can come up with something that is
if
kind
somebody
of
just
search engine dependent, it works with the search engine.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was. Yeah.
And so that would be something that they would have to. In order to get the internet on board, they would have to work with Microsoft at the very minimum, like Bing. As they're the second biggest, I think, in the U.S. search engine, mostly because it's Cortana built into Windows 10.
Yes.
But
Bing, Bing,
they would, Bing. And for certain types of videos.
Excuse you, Daniel.
What?
This is Bing a PG-13...
I didn't say what it was.
Oh,
Bing is factually known to be more effective at certain types of video searches. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
So, ultimately, this is more of just Google's working on something. We'll wait and see if it actually ends up working out.
And so it could result in something where there's basically just no more like .coms and stuff, right? As you just type in Facebook and it goes to
And I mean,
Facebook.
we've already kind of seen the lessening of the importance of top-level domains when it comes to how many generic top-level domains there are. It's kind of just become an additional part of your website. Yeah,
true. And it'd be really hard to... My concern is it's going to be really hard to push this on the industry, not just because of browsers and things like Microsoft and search engines, but also... Most domains are managed by small companies or mid-sized companies that handle... I mean, GoDaddy's huge, but aside from them, most of these domains and stuff are handled by these smaller companies. And in those situations, like, how do they adopt this, right?
It depends on what
seen
they're
how
doing.
Google works with
it depends on what we're doing, because ultimately there still has to be some kind of assigning user-friendly addresses to IP addresses.
Right, because it still has to be IP-based.
Yeah.
The internet's not going to change their entire infrastructure based on Google. Sorry, they're not that big. Nobody is.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Amazon will get
Amazon's
there.
getting there. Yeah, right.
But, yeah, I mean, with that...
Amazon, we're replacing the internet.
If Google just finds a method that they feel to be better for that, like essentially we still have domains, they're just or URLs, they're just different.
Yeah.
Is ultimately what it sounds like would have to happen to make this a realistic change. And at which point we would still need someone to do that assigning.
So we're just going to change it so the browsers are all IP address based, and you just got to remember the numbers.
Yeah, it's like phone numbers, but for websites.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways that could be easier for some people.
And then companies will try and get the phone number that matches up so that you're still spelling out their site name.
Actually, that could be really easy for some people. Some people would like that, where it's like, we've got your phone number, and but not only that, you'd have the IP address, but it'd be in the format like our phone number is also our IP address. Yeah. So it's like,
what if Google just moves the top level domain to the front? It's just like, instead of it being, google.com, it's com.google. That'd be the trollest thing ever.
I mean, I wouldn't hate it. I think it would sound better in some ways.
I mean, it would make the top level domain the...
And there'd be like no www anymore. They could eliminate that. So it's com.facebook or something like that, and that goes to
Everyone would be so confused, especially the old people.
Well, then you got to make it even better, is then you take out HTTPS and everything, but to define secure socket layer, it's S. So it's s.com.google, or s.com.google, s.com.facebook.
s.com.mock.s.
Yes, there we go. Or you could do scom. That would simplify things. Scom.facebook. Huh? Sorg.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
you have to have secure organizations.
Secure organization. Mm-hmm. I like that. That's Sorg. That's it. We made that up. Anybody that uses that, you have to pay us royalties.
$1 per mention.
Yeah, there we go. I was like, please, Daniel, rephrase that. All right, so now we can jump into the next semi-quick topic, but not quite into our quick little rapid-fire section, but we really wanted to mention this. Samsung released some new DIMMs for desktops, laptops, and servers. Mm-hmm. So I'll jump into the desktops and stuff first, because the server one's the big news, but I want you guys to hear the other stuff. So they're using their 10-nanometer process. So they're able to do 16 gigabyte memory chips. So that means each individual chip on a given memory module can be 16 gigabytes, which is a pretty massive capacity because there's a lot of chips on a given DIMM. So anyway, we're going to be seeing up to 32 gigabyte DIMMs on the consumer platform instead of 16 gigabyte. This would still be like non-ECC and everything like that, high performance, not necessarily incredibly expensive DIMMs. So you could see, 4 DIMM computers being able to support up to 128 gigs now instead of 64, and like Threadripper being able to support 256, even though, Threadripper has support for like up to 2 terabytes or whatever, but the boards don't have support for that.
Yeah.
This could help with that. Now, a lot of the boards you could go over anyway because they have support for like ECC DIMMs, they're registered and stuff, but this could help in that direction. They're also going to be releasing 32 gigabyte SODIMM modules for laptops, which would be a very big deal for high performance notebooks and high performance gaming machines, such as this guy here, which I've got its RAM maxed out at 32 gigabytes, could have 64. Not that I need that, but some people do. Like, I don't on a laptop.
And somehow a new MacBook will come out with 4.
Yes, there you go, exactly.
Using this chip.
Yeah, so we'll have 128 gigs of RAM on a MacBook.
No.
Or just...
No.
Oh.
4 gigs of RAM.
Yes.
With a 32 gig chip included.
Yeah, probably.
And then you can buy the extra DLC.
To get... Yeah, there we go. I like that.
MacBook by EA.
Yeah. So
also, please sue the government so that we can sell you loot boxes.
That was the funniest. We
have to talk about that too.
Yeah, we should mention that. But so anyway, what this would come down to is you'd be getting pretty high capacity for laptops and desktops. But the even more important thing for like the higher end market and people that are interested in massive capacity, crazy level stuff, because honestly, the RAM's still going to be expensive. It's not going to be a thing that everybody adopts to. It's just nice to see support for it. Is they released 256 gigabyte single DIMMs for server market. So that, yeah, guys, that's a terabyte in a 4 DIMM slot, which, considering most servers have 8 to 16, 4 terabytes of RAM right there.
That's it?
No problem. That's insane. That's really impressive that they're able to cram that much into a single DIMM.
Yeah.
We've seen 128s before, and those have been around a little while. This is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we get 512s, like, that's just some, we'll be talking on the podcast someday. There'll be 1 terabyte DIMMs for servers.
Yeah.
Be amazing.
Yep.
Be awesome. And 256 will be for desktops. And the common desktop is going to have like 64 to 128 gigs.
And you'll have 2 terabytes.
Yes, that's correct.
Just because you can.
Just because I can. Well, I mean, I have 64 honestly, and it does limit me sometimes.
I feel like once 1 terabyte is viable in a desktop on a platform you have, you'll go for it just to say you have 1 terabyte.
Oh yeah, you know it, because I'm going to 128 soon. Yeah, of course I'll do that. Absolutely.
Like if 1 terabyte came out next year, you'd be like, I have to do it.
Because 1 terabyte.
Yeah.
And then just keep more things running. Applications with memory leaks. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and leak all the memories.
Oh no, an application is leaking and using 400 gigs of RAM. Oh
well. Yeah.
Don't worry, Windows would find a way.
Oh yes. Yes, Windows will. Windows Defender pops in to scan your computer and it's at like 800 gigs of RAM use. It's just like, I don't even have that much hard drive space.
Yeah. That's what you could do. When we have 1 terabyte of RAM, have a 512 gig RAM disk.
Just boot off. No, boot off RAM. That'd be a beautiful day, wouldn't it? Then at that point, though, we need to have like L3 caches that are like 16 gigs on a CPU. Mm-hmm. So we got 2 more things to talk about really before we get into the quick section. We got EA that you wanted to mention. Yeah, fun stuff. So let's jump into that.
Okay, so and it's not just EA; they're just the worst ones as far as how this is all being handled.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, the country Belgium has completely banned loot boxes.
Oh, let's talk about their Battlefield stuff too with the limiter. Let's talk about that too.
Okay.
I want to add that into this section.
So Belgium completely banned loot boxes. There's been a few ways companies have responded. Most companies have, even if they disagree with it, taken it out of their game.
For Belgium specifically.
Yes.
Yeah.
And are trying to fight it in a number of ways. 2K, for example, actually put out a letter to their players of NBA 2K19 asking them to contact their local government and request that they be allowed to sell you gambling loot boxes. Yeah. So there's that interesting one. EA, on the other hand, is like, nah, we're going to fight it in court by just ignoring the law.
Yeah, and just distributing the games anyway.
Yeah.
Now, what some of this comes down to is, to be fair to the game companies and the game publishers, to be fair to them, some of this comes down to the still continued expected cost of a game to be $60. They have to find other ways to make money. Now, of course, loot boxes, we can agree, are not the way to do that. Mm. But that is one of the ways that they see to help combat that cost. Because, realistically, it should be through DLC. It should be through in-game aesthetic purchases. Mm-hmm. Things like that. Cosmetics, right? But loot boxes is another way to recoup that cost. Because there's a a lot of work that goes into it. And games like Overwatch, as an example, there's not that many people purchasing it anymore. There's a reason it's on Humble Bundle Monthly, right? But they get money from the loot boxes so that they can continue development of the game.
Yeah. Now, though, there's a few things as a caveat to that. For one, actually, I've somewhat shifted my stance as far as the cost of games. Because for the longest time, I would always say, it's like game developers aren't making more money per game sale.
Yeah.
They actually are.
Okay.
Digital copies.
Oh, okay.
Everyone was saying, why aren't digital copies cheaper than physical copies when they first started becoming
that's a good point.
Thing.
There's a lot of...
They're making probably $5, $10 more
per game.
because they don't have any
But the question is, how much does the cost go up in terms of game production? It's nothing like it used to be, right?
No.
And they sell more.
No.
But it's a multi-trillion-dollar
But they're more profitable
business.
than ever. It's not like they're struggling for profits and using these to make that. They are more profitable than ever because of DLC and loot boxes.
So I guess it would
we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place, and we wouldn't be having countries looking at laws like this if they weren't doing it in a sketchy manner.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing that I have trouble with as well. And I mean, at the same time too, is if we were to say take those same profits and somehow figure out a way to pull out DLC costs and loot box costs and stuff like that, then it's like, would they still be making a profit at all, or very much of one?
I mean, single player games still make a profit.
So they do. That's a good point too. But then server costs are huge. Of course, we were talking about that earlier today on our own. Is how expensive servers are. Yeah,
but I mean, when you look at the situation, you have the games that from the initial sale they make a pretty healthy profit, and then sure, if after 3-4 years of running servers, they probably would have lost money if they had nothing else.
Yeah.
But that is then where DLC should come into play.
And cosmetics, which are still generally okay.
Microtransactions are still fine if it's something like cosmetics.
Yeah, if it's not a game-breaking thing like Call of Duty introducing a better weapon.
Yeah. Or even, loot boxes, some games handle them fine. I don't have a problem with how Overwatch does it.
I don't either,
because you can unlock everything without paying, and the loot boxes are relatively balanced, and there's plenty of ways to get loot boxes outside of buying.
Yeah, because they have all their special events, and if anything, I just encourage you to play the game more, which actually costs them money, rather than spending money with them, because you can get most things just by working hard for it. There's lots of people that have gotten almost everything by working hard for it. But like the way Call of Duty handled it, especially in like Black Ops 3, there was a big issue with the way they handled that is they had, you could get some of the best items in the game through a loot box that you had to pay for.
Yeah.
So then you're sitting here having to spend money to randomly maybe get something amazing.
Yeah. And then there's also like the targeting of children when it comes to that. That's
horrible.
A huge problem.
Yeah.
That's most of what caused this controversy in the first place.
Yeah, because it starts gambling addiction at a young age, and that's not good.
Yeah, and that's why
it's just not good for them in general.
That's why you have Belgium at this point, is that it is ultimately a form of gambling, especially in games where you can resell the stuff that you get.
Yes, that's a very good point.
Because then you're gambling for money.
We've seen how big markets can get in terms of games that maybe aren't bad on the loot box front, but just as examples of how much money people make off selling cosmetics in CSGO. Or off doing different financial things in World of Warcraft and stuff like that. Making substantial money, not through streaming and the like, but through in-game content sales, that they get something and they sell it to somebody because they're tradable.
Yeah, because, I mean, ultimately when you look at it, loot boxes, when they're done relatively right, and I don't even necessarily mean just cosmetics, but I mean even some level of gameplay affection, just not significant amounts, is about on par with like trading card games.
And those have been around for a long time and haven't really started gambling problems, generally speaking. Yeah.
Even though they ultimately are the same thing. You're buying something to get performance in this game, but there's no cost of entry outside of the cards themselves.
Yeah.
On top of that, it's a lot less predatory towards, like, the most predatory thing they did really with card games was also have a TV show to get people interested.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Whereas you have games where it's like such ridiculous crap, especially on the mobile front.
Oh, it's the worst on the microtransactions. But that's of course because of the encouragement towards free or $4 games for mobile.
I mean, Hearthstone doesn't do that though. Other free PC games.
That's a good point. But let's be honest. Hearthstone they are backed by a big company.
No, but I know. But other free PC games that have microtransactions don't generally do.
Okay, that's true. So it's just it's a mobile because kids are on mobile. That's
and
because
what it it's easier to develop for mobile.
Yeah,
and throw out whatever garbage you want.
Just here's some garbage, spend money.
And it's also a lot easier to get kids to click on the button on their parents' app and charge the.
Yeah, and some parents don't care.
Or some don't notice.
Or don't notice because they have enough money.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's all interesting. And I guess, like I said, I also wanted to bring up what EA might be doing with Battlefield in terms of what they're doing, what we're pretty sure they're going to be doing. But maybe if we're lucky, people, if this happens, what we're about to say, PCMR crowd will blow up so much, EA will back out of it, I promise.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, right now, with the beta going on, there have been a few reports, and it seems like it's only affecting some people, so nobody's really quite sure what's going on. But where essentially it's locking you to one graphics card. If you change graphics cards, you have to, in the case of the beta, uninstall and reinstall, but under a different license. Meaning you would, if this carried over to the PC, like the full version, you'd have to rebuy the game. And since you can't
change your GPU.
Yeah, and you can't do that on one Origin account. So you'd ultimately be looking at having to make a new Origin account and buy a new game to change your graphics cards.
So, basically they're doing what Microsoft does, except for worse of a reason and in a stricter way.
Yeah.
Because Microsoft has some reasoning to be careful about licensing for desktop PCs because they don't want you to carry around a license too easily, right?
Yeah.
But what I could see potentially happening, since that's happening to some people, what I could see EA attempting to do, which would still get huge backlash, because if they did that, they wouldn't sell any games on PC. Nobody'd buy them.
I don't know about that.
Well, okay, but there'd be enough yelling on Reddit and other social media
platforms.
It
would be big enough, I feel like, to hit big news outlets like BBC that's been reporting on some of the bigger gaming controversies.
Yeah, they'd be like this, and this would just be straight up not cool.
Yeah.
Because one of the benefits of PC is doing exactly that. Easy upgrades. Oh, guess what? I have my PC. I want better performance. Instead of replacing the entire thing for about the same cost, I can get a bigger performance jump by just slotting in a new GPU. Right.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like NVIDIA or AMD or both would be stepping in or will step in if this gets confirmed. Yeah. Because, I mean, think about it from NVIDIA's perspective where ray tracing for Battlefield 5 is expected to come after launch of Battlefield 5, not day one.
Yeah, that
What if you have a 1080 Ti and then as the game that you play gets the RTX support, you go buy a graphics card and you have to buy the game again.
So what I could see EA doing to potentially try and combat that but still pull this off is like $5, same account, rebuy. Basically, is like, we noticed you changed your hardware. In order to guarantee that this isn't a different system, we need you to pay $5 for this. And that right there, I mean, that would be, they might get away with it, but I don't think so. I think people would still blow up enough. That
no, I mean, there was enough problems. I mean, even back in the day, their games used to be limited to like 3 PCs and that was it.
Yeah.
I remember having that issue with Spore back in the day. And I got them to essentially clear my account of all of its listed licenses because I was getting so mad about it.
Yeah, because it's ridiculous. This is part of the problem with DRM-based games, right? Whereas you buy something that's DRM3 through... DRM3 through...
There's a new type of DRM,
a new type, yeah. Through GOG or through soon-to-be Discord. It's like, I'll just take that game wherever. And Steam's approach is a fair approach, I feel like, is, you can play it on any PC you want, install it on any PC you want. You can only play it simultaneously on one, though. Otherwise, you got to have a separate Steam account. And I think that's kind of a fine way to go about it. I think, realistically, when we look at it, Steam probably has the most fair DRM.
As far as balance between publishers and developers and the consumer.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, exactly. Whereas some of these other ones are just going overboard in different directions. And obviously, I'm wanting to try and support GOG more.
Yeah.
Good Old Games, for those of you who don't know. I'm wanting to support them more for DRM-free content. So, like,
just call it GOG, not Good Old Games, because realistically, it's not
just,
old games anymore as much.
That's a good point. Yeah, but the idea was old games didn't have DRM, right? Yeah. So that was kind of the idea behind the naming, I think. But so I'm trying to, hey, let's check it out. Okay, yeah, this game looks cool. Search on GOG first, then go to Steam or wherever. Because realistically, if I can get it through GOG, I'd prefer that. Like, I wish I bought Witcher through GOG. I didn't. I wish I had, as just one example, right?
Yeah.
And that could actually have a benefit too, is what if you're trying to get somebody into PC gaming and it's a multiplayer game? What if you want to run it on 2 PCs at the same time to show them what it's like, and then they go home and create their own account and buy it?
So I know a lot of you like paying for things like the games that we were talking about. So how about charging you monthly for Windows 7?
Sounds horrible, doesn't it? Like, just why would you do that? Windows 7's been around forever, but we're okay with this.
Yeah, this
enough.
actually makes sense. It's a kind of weird situation. So for
the headlines were total clickbait.
Yeah, for those that don't already know what's going on, Windows 7 is being end-of-lifed for security updates, or originally was going to be in 2020, January of that year.
Yeah.
Well, Microsoft, likely due to pressure from third-party companies,
and
especially
like enterprise and stuff that are still using Windows 7.
Very large companies that can't change over very easily. Microsoft is now introducing something where, starting January 14th of 2020, they were introducing a program for 3 years where you can pay monthly for essentially to continue getting security updates. So you're not going to get new features or anything like that. It's just to ensure that you get up-to-date security so that your computers are not vulnerable.
Now, as we know, huge vulnerabilities will probably still be updated for free, because we even saw back to XP is getting Spectre Meltdown updates and stuff like that, right? So there are certain vulnerabilities, or no, maybe that was WannaCry. I can't remember which it was.
I think it was WannaCry.
Yeah, I think it was WannaCry.
Because of
Spectre Meltdown's hardware, they didn't care, but
and then on top of that, WannaCry was one of those things
ransomware. But major things like that, you'll still be fine. So if you're just a general internet browser, you're probably okay. And these are security updates for the OS. Windows Defender is still going to get definition updates.
Yeah.
So you still have proper antivirus running on your system too, even if you're just using built-in.
This is mainly for things like financial institutions and other places where they have a lot of data that needs to stay secure.
Yeah, the enterprise market, basically. Yeah, it's like, here, this is more time for you guys to switch over. Now you have an extra 3 years, which
potentially,
is
and they're upping the cost every year to incentivize that you do this faster.
Yeah,
they don't want this to be 3 years for you to just screw around.
Right, and realistically, companies should, because as we know, Windows is now a service platform. And so while there are inherent disadvantages to that, there's also an inherent large advantage to that. And I actually like that method better myself personally. I prefer it. And so it makes sense to move them over, because it's like you get here and then you're good to go. You don't need to worry anymore, because this is Windows. That's it. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a major Windows update that obviously just comes going through 10, but just removes the 10 basically. It's just called Windows from there on out.
Yeah.
And this is Windows. This is what you get, just like this is Android, right? And you still have, you'll still have base editions like Redstone or the updates, April 20 to 46 update. So I think this is a good move from Microsoft, because it's an incentive, but also doing the right thing for the industry.
Yeah.
So
Microsoft likely wouldn't have introduced this unless they had companies specifically requesting more time.
Yeah, and they just didn't want to implement it for free, because it is a lot of manpower to do the work.
Yeah.
So I understand it, and Windows 7 at this point is old. Windows 7 is as old as XP when Windows 7 was good. So it's like, you probably should move off, despite some people, and understandably so, still thinking 7 was the best version of Windows ever. You're just going to have to move to 10 eventually, because that's the direction Microsoft is going, is one OS, everybody on this OS. No more stupid edition crap, because it's been really hard to get people to adopt.
Yeah. So, I mean, Windows 7 is 9 years old at this point.
Yeah.
By the time this program goes into effect, it will be 11 years old almost.
Yeah, 11 years old, and then you're looking at... So it's going to be approaching 15 years old when they finally end of life it properly.
Yeah.
And I think that's sorry if you're still on it. Windows 10 is similar enough in some ways to 7 that the complaints that people had about 8 are mostly negated, and they can move over to it. There are some inherent horrible things. I'm not going to argue with the people that have proper reasons for liking 7 better. There are reasons. Whatever your reason is, chances are, if you know what you're talking about, you know what you're talking about, and you're right. But
if it's bad enough, make your own distro of Linux.
Yeah, right. There you go. Because eventually you're just going to have to be forced to 10.
Yeah.
It's just what's going to happen. And whether they leave it as just Windows, or they leave it as 10, or they leave it change it to just Windows, that's the direction that it's going, and that's the direction software as a whole is going.
Could you imagine if they stayed at 10? Because then we'd have OS X and Windows 10.
Ooh, that'd be interesting.
Can we get Windows X?
Yeah, let's get Windows X.
Windows X 10.247.4.
Yeah, model. Yeah, there we go. But I like the methods of software as a service, though. I do. I like what Adobe does in terms of here you just pay a monthly fee. It ends up being cheaper in the long run if you were to buy the new suite every time it comes out, and you get all the updates anyway. You get better support through the forums and stuff like that, and other stuff. And it's a better. It's easier to financially manage as a big company like that. Is you have this continual rolling income that doesn't necessarily fluctuate by large amounts, so you can easily budget for the future. Whereas you don't know how well your new product might sell, and if it doesn't sell well, that could be enough to put you out of business, right? Yeah. If you've been developing something for 4 years. So I like the direction that the industry is going. That's my personal opinion. There are lots of people that disagree with that. But,
yeah. Now on to some rapid fire topics. So first thing, OnePlus, we've got some new confirmations about the 6T. The main thing, the fingerprint sensor is confirmed to be under the screen.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah, this makes it the first phone with a fingerprint under the display that's going to be sold on a carrier in the U.S. Yeah. We've had some Chinese phones that you could buy in the U.S.
But none of the big guys have done it yet. Yeah. I'm sure Apple will be soon.
I don't think so.
You don't think they're going to do it with the next gen?
I think Apple's given up on that.
Really?
Yeah.
Because people were thinking that they just did the facial because they couldn't get the fingerprint working in time.
Apple's not the type of company that would backtrack on that
and say, "Oh yeah, fingerprint." Yeah, that's a good point.
The only way that
they make a change and they stick to it.
Yeah. The only way I could see them doing it is if on the rumored 6.1-inch lower end display or lower end phone, they would have
they already
been
have
doing
fingerprint
that.
on the low
but
end.
But the problem is that they're doing an LCD screen, and I don't think you can do it under an LCD. I think it only works under OLED.
Yeah, it's only OLED.
So
yeah, there's no physical way to do it under an LCD unless you somehow used vibrations to read a pattern on a finger or something, which I don't think anybody knows how to do yet.
Yeah, that's much further out.
Yeah,
and would cost much more.
Yeah, or you could maybe use sound bounce back to get an accurate representation of it, but that's not easy either. That would be easier than vibration, but still not easy.
I mean, not if they're in a vehicle.
Okay, that's true. That's true.
Anywhere with sound.
Yeah, right. The fingerprint sensor is just constantly going off. Yeah, well, it'd have to be only when it senses a finger shape close to. Whoa.
How would it do that?
I don't know, man.
Magic.
Yeah. So basically, it's. I guess I wouldn't be surprised if it's dead completely from Apple. You're right. They tend to go to a direction and they never admit fault, even if they are at fault in some cases.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if they would have had it ready for the iPhone X, it would have been the big thing from them.
Yeah, but now they're just
Yeah. They're well, we've already gotten people to adopt Face ID, and most people, I mean, while it's not, everyone isn't super happy about it, most people are yeah, this works pretty well, I'm cool with it.
It's whatever.
So they're just
and if they improve Face ID a decent amount more, I'll start to feel more comfortable with it. Because the issue is Face ID, for all the extra tech that's in there, hasn't proven to be much better than just a camera.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Face ID is essentially a Connect.
Yeah, it is, but it's I feel like,
and by that I mean
with the tech in there, I feel like with the tech in there, they could do a better job of being more secure, quicker, and overall more accurate. Versus we've seen OnePlus was able to on the OnePlus 6, they were able to be oh here it's Face Unlock. It's 0.2 seconds slower than Apple's Face ID. And it's basically just as secure because we've already seen Face ID have some problems with similar looking faces and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
But similar looking faces and camera based with just a picture are very different.
They are, right, of course.
That's a huge difference in security. Someone that looks like you trying to break into your phone
But OnePlus did do some stuff to help combat that.
A little bit.
But still, yeah. What I'm saying, though, is I guess for the tech, I feel like they could improve it enough that I'd start to be more okay with it, although I still don't prefer it over
ultimately if full-on security is your real concern, you shouldn't be using fingerprint sensors, you shouldn't be using Face ID or face scanning. You should be using passwords.
Yeah, not even iris scanning.
Yeah. Because ultimately anything that's not a password, it's much easier for someone like the police to force you to give that information up.
It is. Yeah, exactly. Or potentially if you were a high profile person and you were assassinated or something, they could easily quickly get into your information. So I definitely think the best method
ultimately, and I think that's part of why Apple's mostly just focused on speed and especially as they refined things with the software, accuracy in not so much in like preventing someone else, but in that if it is you, it gets you in as often as it can.
It gets you in quick. It gets you in. Yeah,
it's meant to be a mild deterioration and also like a comfort for you.
It's more like so your friends can't get into your phone and stuff. Yeah, it's not for.
Or if you have a like bad SO.
Yeah, there you go. Good point. Yeah, so stuff like that where it's just like it makes sense, and I prefer fingerprint. That's my personal preference, but there's nothing necessarily wrong with Face ID, especially if they improve it.
Also prefer fingerprint, but as I told you earlier, my ideal situation would be a dual fingerprint sensor, which I know a setup which I know would never happen. One on the back and one under the screen.
And I actually agree completely with that.
Because for those that might want to know why, when I pull my phone out of my pocket, I naturally have I grab it out of my pocket like I grip it. Well, I happen to grip it right about
most
the center.
people do that too. Yeah.
So.
You just unlocked it.
Yeah. So while someone like OnePlus is saying, having it under the display takes out a step, what step does it remove from having it on the back?
Yeah.
There's an extra step in waiting for the spot on the screen to turn on that would detect your finger.
Yeah. So
there's
it's like
more steps.
I kind of disagree with OnePlus on that, and I do like though in both situations because having it just on your desk or something if you want to unlock it, it's like right.
Or for me, I ride my bike to work and I have it in a mount. And so I generally have to just open maps and leave it running the entire time.
Because otherwise
that way I have access to it.
Yeah. So that's, that all there. I would love to see that. Mm-hmm. And then also have the face unlock be an option for people that want that, so...
Yeah. Other than that, we've got some AOC budget displays. Go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah, this is just super quick. Wanted to run it by some people. But if you're looking for a good budget gaming display, AOC has pretty much always been a good brand to go for. Or at least for the recent history. Mm-hmm. They've been doing some pretty amazing stuff. And they're at it again. So they've released 4 new monitors, or announced at least. I don't know if you can purchase them quite yet. So, we've got the C27G1, which is $280. It's a 27-inch monitor, has 1800R curvature, 144 hertz with FreeSync, 1080p, VA panel, so you're getting close to IPS performance in a lot of ways, but you're going to get the better response times that you get from a VA panel. There's also the C24G1, which is $230. Exact same specs as the 27-inch, except with a 1500R curvature. It's a 24-inch model, so it makes sense to have the different curve. Yeah. Then there's the C32G1, which is $300, so really not much more than the 27-inch. All the same specs. It's literally identical to the 27-inch. It's just a 32-inch model. So you're getting pretty low pixels per inch at that point. But if you're more of a sit-back gamer, you've got it wall-mounted or something, it kind of makes sense. And it's still 144 hertz, 1800R, curvature, all that stuff, VA panel. Then there's the CQ.
It's not a bad esports monitor for people that really like large displays.
No, that's true. Yeah. True, not at all. And none of these are actually all great esports monitors. And I feel like that's kind of the market they were targeting with these specifically, because they're probably not amazing VA panels performance-wise. Mm-hmm. They're for esports, basically. Because I probably, depending on the quality, they might not really be something you'd want to necessarily go play Tomb Raider or Witcher or Metro or something like that on them, or even ESO or something. It's something that's more going to be for Rocket League and League of Legends and stuff like that. Yeah. And I think it makes a lot of sense for that because they're really cheap. So you've got your person with your $500 PC that can push 400 million frames per second, and Rocket League running on a monitor with 144 hertz. It's FreeSync, so you can buy the cheaper GPUs and still have support for that. Yeah. It's great.
Also, these are not out yet. They are just confirmed for sometime this year.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I missed that part. So, CQ32G1 is this panel here, the final one. $400. As you can guess with the Q, it's Quad HD, 1440p. Everything else the same as the original 27-inch VA panel, curved at 1800Rs and 144 hertz FreeSync. Mm-hmm. Cool monitors. Happy to see them. Not something I would be interested in myself, but maybe eventually for the guest PC that I'm planning on putting together soon. So, if you're looking for that, there you go. You have a good option, especially for just gaming. Wouldn't want to use it for anything color work wise, of course. But and our very last little thing here, very last little tidbit, guys. Windows 10 October update looks to be bringing, or definitely is going to be bringing text messaging to Windows, so you'll be able to link your phone with Windows and send text through it. honestly, there's other apps out there that already do this that are probably going to be better anyway, such as Pulse SMS, which is what I use. Great app, functions great. Although I don't necessarily recommend the Windows desktop or even the Chrome app. I recommend using the web browser edition because it seems to update way quicker, whereas the other ones sometimes seem to have connection issues with the server. They just refresh forever and stuff. But, this might be a little smoother, so I'll probably give it a shot. But realistically, since this is just with your PC, and I don't even know if it'll sync to other PCs, and even if it does, you're not going to be able to sync to your tablets and potentially like Chrome and web-based and like Chrome OS web-based and other phones. So if you're just using a phone and a PC, this would be fine. But if you're using a ton of devices, you still want to go with something like Pulse or Push Bullet.
This is more so meant for just very basic users. Like, they have a laptop and a phone, and that's about it.
Yeah, or even people that are, there's a lot of PC enthusiasts that just have a basic phone. They upgrade once in a while, mid-tier, OnePlus or something like that, and then they have their PC. And, like, I'm one of the users where basically when I get home, I put my phone down and I just don't touch it because everything's on my PC. And I just have no reason to use the phone at that point because... full-size stuff's better.
Yeah.
So.
There is some other cool stuff coming to the October update, actually.
Yes,
that I
meant to add these, yeah.
So for one, if you do have multiple machines, so like your laptop and your desktop, they are going to have a system for syncing clipboards across machines.
Oh, yes, I'm so happy about that. That's a big deal to me. Because I leave this on next to me all day, pretty much.
Yeah. The thing that I'm most happy about, Dark File Explorer.
I am... actually more happy about that than I think any Windows 10 update. Period.
Yeah.
This is amazing. I'm really excited for them to be adding this in. This is an amazing thing to me.
An updated snipping tool with better features and...
Yes, because Snip has had some serious trouble keeping up with
some edge improvements.
Yay.
And then performance information within the Xbox game bar.
Okay, and that'll be really nice, but again, they need to fix the game bar.
Yeah.
Game mode, guys, in Windows. I'm gonna be doing a video on this because I discovered some really weird stuff. Because unlike, it's very rare, I think, that people are actually testing this. I tested Windows 10 game mode on an extremely high-end computer, and it did some really quirky things, guys. And I'll have to do a video on it to really explain what's going on there. But Windows, you need to have the game bar be part of the priority of the game, so that game bar still loads, opens and closes quickly. And one weird thing is, game bar seems to be more of a problem when other applications are suppressed further. So if you are like rendering a video and then you load up game bar and turn on game mode, then game bar lags like crazy every time you load it up. But if you stop the video render, game bar then loads still slower than it should, but much faster. Even though the render task is only using like a couple percentage points on CPU because it's so suppressed, the game bar lags out. Don't know why. Maybe it's a RAM thing that Microsoft needs to work on. I don't know. But I didn't see other things doing that. Like NVIDIA's bar still worked fine, so I don't get that. But pretty cool update. I like the continual improvements. This is right here in a good example of what I was talking about earlier, why I like software as a service. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's it. That's it. That's all I got for everybody here. So we'll be back, of course, next week with more news topics. And watch out for my channel update that'll be coming out soon regarding why there wasn't one last week. And the channel update was supposed to be uploaded last week, but partially related to what's in the video and what I talk about is exactly why I missed that. So I'm going to try and have that video up for you guys probably on Friday or Saturday. Pretty important one there because there's some changes happening around here that are going to be really, really good and exciting. Yeah.
Other than that, stay tuned next week for some Apple news and some other random crap.
Yeah, basically. That's what it'll be. It'll be a lot of Apple news. Oh, and forgive anybody that's watched till the very end somehow for some odd reason. Forgive my hoarse voice. We had a LAN party this weekend, and I talked a lot. So
he always talks a lot.
I talked a lot.
You always talk a lot.
Well, okay, to be fair, we were
You're
loud.
Talking a lot.
To be fair, we talked loud, and that's where it comes from, is we talked really loud. Which is what I do right now, too, for the mic. But, I talk normal, you know what I mean? So, anyway, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll be back next week. Be on the lookout for some cutouts of this and some other videos that we have coming up pretty soon.
Yeah.